Good evening, Zimbabwe. You are listening to Studio 7 from the Voice of America on Tuesday, February 10th, 2015. And this is The Connection on Live Talk. I'm Tungamili Nkomo.
And I'm Tatenda Gumbo.
On this very first edition of our new show for the youth, The Connection, we are casting a net to get your views as young people on what you'd like us to discuss on this forum.
Let's get connected on Twitter and Facebook using the hashtag #TheConnection. Our Facebook page is VOA Studio 7 and our Twitter handle is @Studio7VOA. We can get things going on WhatsApp. Use our number 001-202-465-0318.
And for those who want to speak on air, you can give us a call on the following number: 001-202-619-2077. The number again, 001-202-619-2077. And we will call you back.
And of course, we're also streaming live on the internet. You can find us at voazimbabwe.com, voashona.com, and also on voandebele.com. Just find the stream page on the page.
Again, this is your brand new show, The Connection, coming to you live from the Voice of America in Washington. Tonight, we are doing a Vox Pop, a fishing expedition, if you will, trying to get your views as young people on the issues that concern you the most.
Indeed, Ntunga, and we are very excited to bring this new show to young Zimbabweans in Zimbabwe and elsewhere, and I'm ready to get it kicked off. Ntunga, are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do this.
Let's do it.
Manero akanaka vatereri tiri kusangana muchirongwa chanhasi chirongwa cheve chidiki chatiri kuparura muzuva ranhasi, muzuva rechipiri, chirongwa The Connection, apo patinenge tichikurukura nenyaya dzine chekuita nevechidiki. Saka tiri kukukokai imimi vechidiki kuti mutiridzire runhare kana kuti mutitumire mameseji paWhatsApp, motitaura zvamunenge muchida kuti tizokurukura nezvazvo pano pachirongwa che-The Connection. Chirongwa ndechenyu imimi vatereri, zvikuru sei vechidiki. Tachiparura kuti muwane mukana wekunge muchikurukura nenyaya dzese dziri kumubatai sevechidiki. Amachono zihlobo esithandekayo, siyadibana lamhlanje kuhlelo lwe-Live Talk, lapho esilethulela khona olunye uhlelo njalo olukhangelane labatsha, uhlelo olubizwa ngokuthi The Connection, lapho esiyabe sikhuluma khona ngama-issues ngakho konke okuliphathayo lena njengabatsha. Kungaba kuswelakala kwemisebenzi, kungaba kuyizinhlelo zentuthuko, yiloba yini asizili lutho okungayangisiyo, siyakhuluma ngakho khonapha emoyeni. Ngalokho lisitshayele inamba, lisitshayele ucingo, kumbe lingasithumela i-WhatsApp, imessage nje lisho kubana hayi sifuna ukungena kuhlelo, sizalifonela back, libe seliyatsho-ke ukubana kuyini elifuna sikhulume ngakho khonapha emoyeni. Inombolo zocingo zithi 001-202-619-2077. Tatenda ndiyo nyaya iri pano apa cha parurwa chirongwa chevechidiki.
Nasizwa yechewediki, saka I think we're gonna have a good time.
I have no doubt about that.
Sezvawataura nhasi toda kuti vanhu vese vashandise hashtag inonzi The Connection, but Ntunga, let's explain kuti hashtag The Connection, how does it work? Because some people vari pa Twitter, some people vari pa Facebook, but maybe hauziva kuti my hashtags anoshandisa sei.
You are the young one, Tatenda. Go ahead and do it.
Okay, so for those out there who are hearing us keep saying join us on The Connection using the hashtag The Connection, think about your phone. It's the pound sign, and you use the pound sign and use the word the connection. That way, if you're on Facebook, if you're on Twitter, if you're on WhatsApp, if you are able to click on that link, you can see what other young people in Zimbabwe and elsewhere are saying about our program today. And of course, we've started even promoting this per WhatsApp Ntunga, and the response has been overwhelming. Nasita Tantine, my message is like, I want this. So I think we're gonna be on for a good ride with this hashtag. So make sure to the connection. That way, we know that you are speaking directly to us.
Yebo tatenda uyakhuluma lapho kubana lingasixhuma njalo ku Twitter la ku Facebook lisebenzisa i-hashtag ethi yona the connection. I-hashtag ungakhangela efonini yakho kompha i-pound sign eZimbabwe bathi i-pound sign ungayichaya naleyana ubusuthayipa ibala elithi the connection ngamabala amabili kodwa uyathayipa libambene konke oyabe uyakubhala kulandela khonapho kuyabuya kithi ngapha siyabona ukubana ukhuluma ngani bese siyatsho ke emoyeni ukubana uDube oseGwanda uDube osemberengwa uthi ufuna sikhulume ngalokho kuhlelo.
So I think maybe we can start by reading some of the messages we're getting, because today it's open mic. We want to hear what young people out there are saying, what they want to hear Ntunga and myself talk about on our show. We had a lot of responses today on WhatsApp, also on Facebook and Twitter also. So we can read some and see what people are saying. Okay, so our first message, this is from Nicodemus, who says, this is the techno age. To all my mates, wise up and be connected.
We have, yeah, that's a good one, actually. Bono inkosi Sithole uthi yena, what I would love to hear from the show is realizing the high unemployment rate, the ailing economy, and the fact that government initiatives or plans seem not to be benefiting every youth. What then should be done?
And then Tinem Koma Carrington and Nonyora Kuti, we need you to air views concerning unemployment and youth funding.
Another listener says the political and economic situation in Zimbabwe, that's what he or she would like us to talk about. What will be the heritage to the future generation? Only a state full of turmoil, hunger, and poverty. And the listener signs off as Trinos.
And we also have from Liberty, who says, I am a law student at the University of Zimbabwe, and I'm very happy with the Live Talk show, specifically giving us a chance to preach the gospel of democracy to our fellows. Keep on pulling the strings, and he gives us his number, so we'll definitely pass this on so that we can speak to Liberty here on The Connection.
Another listener says, I think we must put a new law in Zimbabwe. You can only be a president if you are 40 years to 65 years.
We're setting terms.
Yes, to 65 years, and one must be only allowed to lead for 2 terms. This will avoid people like the president, RG, to stay in power like they own Zimbabwe. Emmanuel.
You know what, Ntunga, the views are coming in left and right, and so many people are giving their views, what they want us to talk about. But we also have young people who have really voiced their concerns. So let's take a listen to some of these young Zimbabweans who've taken their time to talk about some of the issues that they have, and then we'll bring in our guests who are waiting on the line to speak to us.
They have now adopted the Western culture. That is where all the problem starts. Because you are adopting the Western culture, and
because that's his duty. If the seniors cannot do it, then you are the junior leader. Why not take part, participate, contribute, partake in whatever development you can do? So this is what we want.
Our honorable member of parliament has just talked of something like economic underdevelopment. However, to education, I'm still wondering, really, where is the economic underdevelopment in education? Honorable Speaker.
part of order, Mr. Speaker. They have now adopted the Western culture. That's the
partake in whatever development activities. So this is what we want.
And Tunga, those are the views of some of the youth in Zimbabwe voicing some of the concerns that they have. It's very spirited debate there.
Indeed, Tatenda, we have our very first guest on the connection, and the name is Gladys Changa Chirere, coordinator for Institute for Young Women Development. Good evening.
Good evening, Tunga. Good evening, Tatenda.
Good evening, Gladys. Thank you for
We
being
are
first.
very excited
Very honored
to have you on, Gladys. We know you guys have, a litany of issues as Zimbabwean young people that affect you, that you guys would like to articulate. Go ahead and give us some of those issues that are at the top of your list.
Ntunga, I think one of the most, burning issue really that we need to engage in as young Zimbabweans and particularly as young women is the issue of livelihoods. As you may know right now, our economy is not functioning well, and as a result, there are limited job opportunities out there. There is limitation in terms of young women's access, to resources, and therefore that really compromises the livelihoods for young women. So one of the things that we need to start engaging in right now, and as a matter of urgency, is the issue of livelihoods, particularly for young women in marginalized communities. I really feel that this is critical right now because when you look at the effects of high levels of poverty, particularly among young people, you realize that young women are the primary sufferers of the effects of poverty, the non-functionality of the economy and everything else. You look at the high levels of violence happening. It's happening to young women just because they are dependent economically on their male counterparts who are at the present moment are equally, strained by the situation. So we really need to start talking about the issue of livelihoods, how we can, encourage the government really to put in place mechanisms to ensure that young people out there have got jobs, young people out there have got access to resources so that they can start providing for themselves and for their families too.
Yeah,
so
Glenn.
This is one of the issues that is on my top list. But also, I think following to that is the issue of young women and youth participation in general. I'm sure you will agree with me, both of you, that we find ourselves in the situation where we are today as young Zimbabweans. Of course, because of an undemocratic government that we have, but also because young people are not necessarily participating in issues of decision making. And so as long as we remain not represented in decision making, it means that our interests, our priorities, our needs for all these things that I was talking about will remain, unattended because no one is voicing out these concerns. So we really need to start thinking seriously and acting towards voicing out our concerns, be it in the formal or even the non-formal decision-making platforms as young people.
Glenys brought up very many different issues there. The issue of livelihoods, the issue of access to resources, and issue of young people, in particular young girls, that issues that they face, and then also participation in all these processes going on in Zimbabwe. But Glenys, can I ask you from a grassroots level, what are some of the challenges that you see young people facing day to day, and what it means for how they look at their future in Zimbabwe?
There are quite a number of challenges really that young people are facing, in the communities. I think for me, you will, I will not apologize for, speaking with a bias towards young women, but you will agree with me that when you look at the young people and young women, this is a demographic group that is looked down upon. And when we start, or when leaders start talking about issues of trying to provide resources, trying to provide economic opportunities, normally they forget the young people. I will cite the example of the recent land redistribution exercise that was happening, where the government through the president of Zimbabwe, was issuing out, A1 permits to people, especially in rural communities. The majority of the people who benefited from that scheme are elderly people. Young women, when it comes to issues of land, they are regarded as, non-citizens and therefore have no rights to access land. And this is a serious challenge because the majority of the people in these communities are young people, and particularly young women. And when this larger group of the population honestly is denied access to one of the most means of productions, what it simply means is that we'll continue to, face many other challenges that are as a result of the failure by this group to access resources. And then secondly, there is also the issue of general absence of mechanisms to really support youth ideas around entrepreneurship, around livelihoods, where we do not really have a concrete and reliable source of capital where young people can actually go and be able to borrow money, to invest and grow their businesses and everything else. And this is a serious challenge, especially for people in rural communities, because when young people go to the banks, they are asked for collateral security. And the only thing that they own perhaps is a small black pot in their house. And they can't go and present that to the bank and say, you know what, this is what I have as my security. Can you give me a loan? So we still really have challenges around issues to access funding, for young people's entrepreneurial activities. And then the other challenge that comes as a result of being sidelined in decision-making processes is whereby maybe the government tries, yes, to initiate mechanisms for funding for young people, but because they are not really, in the situation that young people are, they may fail to really understand what are our specific needs, what are our specific requirements. So sometimes, yes, they put in place mechanisms like the Youth Fund, but it doesn't really respond to what our needs are, because some of the things that they ask us to provide, or some of the things they expect us to do, really are not in sync with our day-to-day realities as young people. So we'll still realize that there is a gap in terms of policy formulation and also the impact of the policy on the young people of Zimbabwe today. So those are some of the challenges that as young people we are still, faced with on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you, Gladys. Please do stand by, do stay on the line. Taura Gladys Yeguti. She's a bit biased towards, young women. And, I'm glad to say this show is all about bias. After all, we are also biased towards the young people. Saka ndiyo nyaya yacho iyoyo ari kutaura Gladys apa ari kuti dzimwe nyaya dziri kunetsa vechidiki muZimbabwe zvikuru sei inyaya yekushayikwa kwemabasa. Ari kutaura yekuti cheuviri chiri kunetsa kuwana nekuti mabasa hapana. Saka vechidiki vakawanda vanopedza zvikoro asi kuzotsvaga mabasa acho havawani. Ataurazve nenyaya yekuti imwe nyaya iri kunyanyonetsa kuZimbabwe panyaya dzemayouth, youth development, inyaya yekuti vechidiki havana representation yakakwana panyaya dzema-decision making. Ndofunga pari kutaura zvikuru sei panyaya dzegovernment, pakuti panenge pachitorwa ma-decisions zvisvungo nehurumende, vechidiki havawani mukana wekuti vawane anenge achivamirirawo ipapo pama-decisions. Ukhulumile lapha uGladys, ucoordinator we-Institute for Young Women Development, ihlanganiso yakhe ke leyo ayikhokhelayo. Ukhuluma ngokuthi okuhluphayo kakhulu eZimbabwe okwamanje okuhlupha abasakhulayo ludaba lokusilela kwemisebenzi. Bayaqeda isikolo abasakhulayo bayedinga imisebenzi kodwa cha ayitholakali leyo misebenzi ngoba amakampani avala njalo nje. Ukhulume njalo ngodaba lokuthi kuzibopho kuma decisions athathwa nguhulumende kusuke kungasebenzeli kuhle abasakhulayo ngoba kabala representation, kabalabo abasakhulayo ababamelayo kuhulumende. abathi lapho kubotshwa kuthathwa izibopho kuthathwa ama-decision babe khona labo bathi hayi badala lapha kaloku uhambisa ngakuhle i-decision leyi kayibananzi kumbe kabaphathi kahle abasakhulayo. Yilo udaba esikhuluma ngalo ke lamhlanje, udaba lokubana kuyini elifuna sikhulume ngakho khonapha ku The Connection, uhlelo lwethu lwakuqala lamhlanje tatenda.
And Tunga, I think tinemamwe ma messages maybe aripa Facebook rekati werenge idzodzo.
Pane yakanyorwa nechikhalanga manje.
Ehe.
Lero rimirwa
Wanakidza,
manje. Ndanakidza stereki. Yanyorwa nemterera anonzi Tsindikani Dukunya. Saka ndichaiverenga nekhalanga yakadaro.
Okay.
Ari kuti tomukumbila mulinge chinotama kuti vana vedu vekombe maticha ini. Kakale nekuti kungapedziwa chini. Kakale nematicha anodhana nevana vekwele etiweni. Inyaya yakaoma tatenda Dukunya ari kuti pane anoda kuti titarise nyaya yema relationships between ma teachers varairidzi nevadzidzi.
Okay.
Ari kuti nyaya yekudanana pakati pevarairidzi nevasikana vechikoro yanyanyisa. Uyakhuluma lapha uDukunya uthi yena ufuna sikhulume ngodaba lokukhombana phakathi kwababalisi lamantombazana awesikolo. Ngibona ule point lapha ludaba ongaluzwayo kukhulunywa ngalo kaningi kodwa yinto enzakalayo. It's real. You know, there are teachers who date school kids.
Yeah.
And Sindikani Dukunya here says that's one of the issues that he would like us to tackle here on The Connection.
Yeah, and that's why I think we opened up the program today so people can come and let us know what's happening in their areas, let us know what's very important for them, because story E, we might have not even thought about that in Tunga, but this person has given us a chance to delve into that issue, and we hope we can make that one of our topics, Panopa, The Connection.
Indeed, without a doubt, because it's an elephant in the room. I mean,
Yeah.
it's happening. It's happening out there. I personally never thought of it until this guy brought it to our attention. But it's an issue that we should like to tackle on this program.
And, we have some other messages. Speaking on that issue, there was one of our listeners who sent us a message. I hope I can pull this up quickly. But, he was saying that's something that he hopes that we deal with, the issue of early child marriages for young girls. And he was saying that it's a topic that he's very passionate about. And I hope that we can get him on the show. I actually have the message here where he's saying, hi, guys, I'm a youth, 23 years old. My name is Tabiwa Nashe Goa. I really like to listen to a program like Early Child Marriage Issues because I want to raise a point of very important points, like the reason why the number of under 18 years old girls are getting married. Second, I want to discuss another issue of vending and selling in the streets of Harare. But his first point, I think maybe I'll give this to Gladys as she's the expert on this issue. Gladys, can you talk about this issue of early child marriages when it comes to young girls in Zimbabwe? What exactly is going on? And from the ground, what are you seeing?
That's one of the hottest and very worrisome issues we keep, experiencing every day, especially, in the rural communities out there. We realize that despite the country having a new constitution, we actually have cases of early child marriages, on the increase. And when this happens, it seems that we still have a lot to do in terms of raising awareness to the children, the girl child themselves, to their families and the larger community on the fact that early marriages are a crime. We have incidences where sometimes when parents find out that their young kids are dating, be it in school or when they find out that a girl child is, perhaps dating an elderly man, they are quick to say, you need to go to your husband. And they don't really look at the fact that this child is a minor and she cannot be forced into an early marriage. And then secondly, we also even have the girl child themselves, eloping to elderly men in their communities. And when we try to intervene, really they refuse and say that, you know what, this is what I want. This is the decision I've made. I want to be with this man. And then we also have a problem, Tatenda. This is very worrisome, especially from the traditional leaders. Our chiefs are people who play a key role in terms of justice delivery, from a rural community point of view. However, when people bring in such cases of early marriages, the chiefs, instead of actually recommending that the cases be taken to magistrates' courts, they are making the accused, to pay for the damages for these girls. And the moment they do that, the boys will actually take it that you're somehow asking us to marry these girls, and then they'll take them, or they'll just pay the damages to the family, and the cases just disappear like that. So there aren't really punitive measures that come out, especially of the traditional courts, in as far as dealing with issues of child marriages is concerned. So there are a number of angles in which these cases are emanating from, but also we realize that every day these cases are on the increase, and some are actually forcing their girl child out of school and say, you know what, I can't afford to send you to school. You'd rather get a man and therefore a source of income. So this is something that is very worrisome, and it really makes us, as women's organizations that are fighting for women and girls' rights, really realize that there is so much work that still needs to be done in terms of raising awareness about these issues, and also really encouraging communities to change, especially their mindsets around the girl child.
Thank you, Gladys. We'll just have you hold on the line there. I think mtungatine muterere wediwe kutanga. That is Miss Deborah, who is in Harare. How are you? Hello? Hello, Miss Deborah? Hello? Okay, I think that line ntungari kuramba, but nemwe mtereri wedu ari paru nare.
Ari kunetsa Tatenda. Silo mnumzana Albert Ncube. Siyakwamukela kuhlelo Albert.
Yebo linjani?
Hayi siyaphila baba, unjani lawe?
Hayi mina ngiziphile.
Yes, siyakwamukela kuhlelo, siyajabula ukuba lawe kuhlelo lwabasakhulayo, uhlelo The Connection. Kuyini okuqhakathekileyo kuwe Ncube ofuna sikhulume ngakho khona apha emoyeni?
Lapha solo sisikhala ngimsebenzi akulamsebenzi. Namanyuku lomnyofona wena mbijana.
Akulamsebenzi.
Akulamsebenzi ngapha.
Kodwa njengabasakhulayo lani liyake lihlale phansi libonisana ukubana madoda akithi njengoba kungela msebenzi kunje kuyini esingakwenza mhlawumbe ama projects ukubana lathi sithole inzuzo.
Lapha vele kulama project vele kuwile indawo yakhona avele siyashuthiya kakhulu.
Yebo bakithi. Liphila njani pho Ncube? Ulomuzi ulabantwana uhlala labazali umi njani?
Mina ngihlala labazali.
Yebo bakithi. So udaba olumqoka kuwe ofuna sikhulume ngalo khona apha emoyeni lo daba lokusilela kwemisebenzi.
Udaba lokusilela kwemisebenzi.
Hayi siyabonga Ncube, ulalele ngeviki ezayo uhlelo lwe The Connection.
Okay, angicela iqhubeke nami ngithinta daily ku-7.
Hayi siyabonga baba, sizakwenza njani?
And Tunga, I think we are done with our first half. And here we'd like to say good evening, good night to our radio listeners. But of course, we want everybody to migrate to the web. Make sure you can follow us there, streaming live right now. Live Talk, The Connection. I'm Tatenda Gumbo.
I'm Tunga Milinko. Please do stay tuned. A very good evening to our web viewers and listeners. You are listening to Studio 7 from the Voice of America on Tuesday, February the 10th, 2015. And this is The Connection on Live Talk. I'm Tungamili Nkomo.
And I'm Tatenda Gumbo.
On this very first edition of our new show for the youth, The Connection, we are casting a net to get your views as young people on what you'd like us to discuss.
And I think, Ntunga, we've cast that net very wide. We've had ranging views from our guests, Ms. Gladys Changa Chirere, and also our listeners and viewers who sent us messages on our WhatsApp, Twitter, and Facebook talking about what they see is most important for them. Just before the break, Ntunga, we had a caller, Mr. Albert Ngube. Tell me, what was he talking about? What are some of the things he's facing as a Zimbabwean youth?
Mr. Ngube was saying that the one most important issue to him as a young person is the issue of unemployment. He says that he does not he's not employed. He lives with his parents, and that there are no job opportunities whatsoever where he comes from.
I think besides us having an open mic, that might be topic number 2 on the line of most important issues.
And what would be topic number 1?
Number 1 would be the open mic, letting people come in and
okay, I get it.
But I think from everything that we've seen, I think the issue of jobs is number 1 on the plate of young Zimbabweans, but also Zimbabweans generally.
And Tatenda, on the issue of unemployment, we don't want to talk about the obvious.
Yeah.
You know, we know there are no jobs. The job market is very tight. You know, companies are closing, are shutting down almost every day.
Day by day, yes.
Because the economy is just not working. And instead of, keeping, talking about, there's no jobs, wailing about that, the very, important question is, what can be done? What can young people do
to deal with that issue?
To deal with that situation? It's like lemons have been thrown at them.
Yeah.
How can they make lemonade?
Lemonade, yes.
That's the question that, we have to deal with.
And that's true. I think hopefully with this show, we can get that ball rolling to talk to young people and say, okay, you're in a situation where hapana mabasa, things are very tight. It's very hard to get by. But what are some of the things that you're able to do day to day? We have our youth segments that we do on the weekends, you, myself, and Blessing Zulu. And, even when we talk in the office, we see that there are kids out there, young kids out there who are doing so many different things, and they're able to make this situation into a nice cup of lemonade, as
Indeed.
we can say.
Indeed.
Okay, we have a caller here. This is Mr. Jabson Aku, South Africa. How are you?
I'm fine, and how are you?
Thank you so much for joining us today on The Connection. What's your contribution?
It's my pleasure. Okay, we are talking of youth of today, especially in our country, Zimbabwe. The real problem, or the main problem, which is there, is the employment, which we have been discussing about. Yes, as youth, we are so energetic. We want to work. We want to have that conducive environment for us to show that, to show what we have actually. You see, we have been going through hard times, but our parents managed for us to get education, of which we're looking forward for our government to have a conducive environment for us to have work so that we can work for our country. Yes, there are some other issues or things that young people can do, but without conducive environment, it's very hard. That's why we see at the end of the day, our youth are actually involved in dead jobs for them to get money, to get a living. And we end up, having many criminal activities in our country.
Ako, imimi koma Jabson, mriku South Africa, mriku shanda ere?
You see, most of people here in South Africa, it's part-time jobs. You can't get a full-time employment most of the time. It's part-time jobs which you are doing. And you'll be not doing the job that you are qualified for. You'll be doing other dead jobs as long you get to survive and make other people or relatives home to get this and that at the end of the month.
And
It's very tough here. It's very tough. I don't want to lie. Very tough. You see, people are suffering.
are you able to get by? As you're saying, things are very tough. How are you getting by day to day? Because obviously that's an issue. I see you're laughing. So
Actually, it's a sacrifice.
Yeah.
Because when we came here, we were looking forward to help our young brothers, our fathers. So if you are here, you'll be sacrificing. And you see, even if you are not sending money home on a monthly basis, but you have to sacrifice that when you are going back home, you should show something. You should produce something to the family.
You know what? Thank you so much for your contribution. Much appreciated, and we hope you'll come back and join us on the connection.
No problem. It's my pleasure.
Thank you.
Tinotenda mkoma tidzokere kuna Gladys. Gladys, ndopfunga uri kunzwa zviri kutaurwa nevatereri. Vari kuchema nenyaya yawambotaura nezvayo, nyaya yekushayikwa kwemabasa munyika. Asi mvunzo wakakosha wandinofunga kuti tinofanirwa kunge tichibvunza sevechidiki kana kuti pano pamhepo, uyezve tichiconsider zvakanyanya sevechidiki, umvunzo wekuti sezvo mabasa achishayikwa kudai, chii chatinogona kuita isusu sevechidiki to eke out a living? Is that not the case?
Oh, you are asking to me again?
Ndanga ndakutaura naGladys.
Oh, Gladys, okay.
Yeah. Hatinotenda mkoma Jabson.
No problem.
Okay. Gladys uripo parunare? Hello, Gladys.
Hello, I'm still around.
Okay, we are glad. Meno connection
The connection wasn't connected.
The connection wasn't. The connection was failing.
It was not connected.
Okay, ndangani chiti nini Gladys vanhu vakawanda vari kuchema nenyaya yekuti mabasa, kuna mabasa kunyika chero kuSouth Africa. Ataura mukoma Jabson kuti mabasa acho ari kunetsa. Unoguma kuita mamwe mabasa asina kana nebasa just to get by. Saka ndiri kuti inini mvunzo wakakosha hauoni kunge unge uri mvunzo wekuti sezvo mabasa acho asingawaniki kudai, todii isusu sevechidiki? How do we innovate kubuda musituation iyoyo?
Yeah, that's a good question. How do we innovate? I think there are a couple of things that young Zimbabweans out there have already started doing, Tunga, for me. I think if you reflect back to 2006, 7, 8, the situation was even worse than it is right now. But we actually saw the young people coming out and do different things, going to the streets and some were changing money, going to the streets, buy from one shop, rush to that particular community and sell your things. And we've actually seen others, starting to run small businesses that have, tried to see the day of light. But otherwise, for me, I think that there is one thing as young people that we must tell ourselves and be honest with. There is a conversation that we need to engage in. Otherwise, if we don't engage in that conversation, Zimbabwe is going to die while we are watching it. Yes, we need to live now. We need to have food for this particular evening and for the next day and the other day. But how about things that are sustainable? How about the future Zimbabwe? Because every day we have thousands of people graduating from universities, and honestly, they can't all go into the streets and buy and sell. Honestly, these people can't just graduate for them to flock to South Africa. And now the restrictions are even worse with, neighboring countries. I think for me, we need to engage in a conversation with our government around how they can create a conducive environment for business and economic revival. We need to revitalize the industries. That is no doubt one conversation we need to have. Otherwise, this thing of, me doing these small things, it does not really sustain one's life forever. And even to talk about in a year or 2 years' time. You see what is happening now? Most of our sisters are in the streets. Most of the young people are in the streets. They are buying and selling. But the same government that is ignoring the conversation around economic revival comes into the streets and say, you know what? You are making the streets dirty and we don't want to see you in the streets. For them, it's about the streets being dirty. It's not about us not having a source of livelihood. So for me, I really feel that as young people, we need to do everything within our means, really to make the government listen to us and start talking about the issue of economic revival, and with a more long-term approach in mind. Yes, we need to be doing small things. Currently, for us as the Institute particularly, we're actually conducting projects around trying to provide support to young women so that they're able to at least earn a living, encourage them to get into fishing. They are doing fish farming, they are doing bee farming, poultry and all that. Yes, that is necessary for one to be able to survive a day's meal, but it's not enough. It's not adequate. We need to do more for Zimbabwe. So for me, we need to do serious advocacy with our government around the issue of reviving the economy, revitalizing the industry, so that people have decent jobs. After all, it's not everybody who's interested in entrepreneurship, and really people have to be able to choose what they want to do, choose what they want to live by, and be able to earn a proper and a decent living at least. So yes, we can encourage small businesses out there, but for me, that is not the solution. We need to look into a more long-term solution.
And your organization, what are you doing to make sure that you can cultivate and make these changes? Because, of course, you spoke about how you're empowering young women to do this, but how exactly is it working?
For me, I think the small projects that we are doing are working just enough to provide one with a meal. Why do I say that? You realize that the different small businesses that are viable currently, everybody else is doing that. Everyone else is doing buying and selling. They're doing small scale farming. They are even getting into mining, but the majority of the people also out there are doing likewise. If you try to venture into other businesses, because of the shrinking of the economy, there is no money, there is a liquidity crunch. People are not, in a position to really compromise their dollar to buy those things that they really feel do not meet their very basic needs. So yes, those small projects are working for us, but we are also doing extensive advocacy work around seeing how young women can actually begin to have access to the means of production. Talk about issues of land. We are operating in Mashonaland Central Province, where we have really, vital land. We also have lots of mineral deposits. We have all these very, useful natural resources. But because there aren't mechanisms for young people to have access and make use of those resources for their own economic being, and also, to try and facilitate creation of jobs for the other people, we still have challenges whereby these resources will just either lie idle, or they'll be extracted by Chinese who are exporting them to their countries. And unfortunately, when they come to extract them, they bring their own labor. So for us, we are really doing extensive advocacy work so that the government begin to loosen up and facilitate access by young people to these resources. I think one of the things the government was talking about, the current government was talking about in their Zima set, was the issue of value-added beneficiation of our own natural resources. This is something that they really need to work towards implementing so that young people have access. We provide them with the necessary technical support, and they begin to add value thereby, therefore creating, employment opportunities for others in the communities. So that is a field that we really feel we still need to do more in terms of advocacy, and see how we can collectively, as civil society, and the government really can contribute towards creating an environment where we are able to see young people having, a decent life and therefore being able to take care of themselves.
Thank
Okay,
you.
tinotenda Gladys ramba wakabata. Tine mutereri parunare. Tatenda silomlaleli uJesnet South Africa. Good evening, Jesnet. Hello, Jesnet.
Maybe
Hello, mlaleli.
Hello?
Yebo, Jesnet.
Yes.
Go ahead and give us your contribution, please.
I think maybe.
Yeah, I think we have a bad connection again on the connection.
Or maybe Tongoedza one more time.
Hello, Jesnet.
Hello?
Yes, Jesnet, you are live on the connection, and we are glad to get connected with you. Please do give us your contribution. What are the issues that are at your heart as a young person?
The issues are still hard. The life that we are having in South Africa. I think the government of Zimbabwe must do something because where we are now, we are suffering everywhere. So I think the government should do something about that.
Unogona kutaura kana kukhuluma, Jesnet?
Ndotaura.
Saka vanhu vakawanda vari kungoti government wongoti noziva kuti government yatadza kucreata mabasa, asi isusuwo sevechidiki pane zvatiri kuita here kuona kuti tiri kubuda mudambudziko iri?
Panoti nepei because zviri kuramba zvichingowedzera, hapana solution. Hatizivi kuti zvichaguma nepi, nokuti even kuno kwatiri South Africa kwacho takungonetsa kuti udzokere kumba futi hazviiti, dzakangominya.
Saka kuSouth Africa ikoko ndezvipi zvimhingamupini zvauri kusangana nazvo?
Like ndakauya 2007 and zvasiyana kubva 2007 mabasa anga asinganetsi, but iko zvinezvi zvawese mabasa akutonetsa. Saka zvakatoma.
Saka inyaya yemabasa ndiyo nyaya yakanyanya kukosha kwauri yaunodati kurukure nezvayo pano paStudio 7 The Connection.
Kuti ungaitawo rimwe another way yekuti arame everyone, nyange ukati nditewo kutengesa, everyone ari kutengesa, ukati nditewo chino wese anobva aitawo ichocho. Saka the best way I think ikakungo kuenda kuchikoro, at least tinoti makosi zvinenge zviri nani.
Aiwa, tinotenda zvikuru Jesnet. Jesnet yakhuluma lapha tatenda uthi yena use-South Africa wahamba ngo-2007. Uthi ngaleso sikhathi bekungcono kakhulu, imisebenzi ibitholakala. Kodwa utokwamanje sokunzima. Kayisatholakala imisebenzi eZimbabwe, ukuthi bebuyele akwenzi ngoba uyabuyela ufike wenzeni, kayikho imisebenzi. eSouth Africa lako kunjalo kayikho imisebenzi. Ukhuluma njalo ngodaba lokuthi abantu abaningi sebephila ngokuthengisa esitaladeni. Ngitsho la eSouth Africa ngoba iSouth Africa sisiba overburdened kakhulu ngama citizens avela kwezinye kwamanye amazwe, oBotswana, Nigeria, Zimbabwe, Mozambique, bonke baya eSouth Africa. Kugcine imisebenzi ingasatholakali.
And we know that's a big issue ku South Africa kuti atotaura kuti oversaturation yewanu, and even the work itself, there's not much to go around. Atine mumwe mutereri ari parunare ndimukoma Donald. Makadi mukoma Donald?
Ndinofara tatenda, uri seiko shamwari?
Ndiribo, ndafara kutaura nemi pamhepo.
aiwa nendafara tatenda nakina ndichris here nditungamiri here aripo
ndintungamiri anenge achi-co-hosta neni pashow ye-The Connection.
aiwa tatenda ndinofara neprogramu yamakaita yekuti rangarirawo sevechidiki tatenda tinozvitenda zvamakaita isi.
Aiwa tinotenda zvikuru mukoma Donald. Saka ndeipi nyaya yamuri kuda tikoshese pana?
Ini yandoda tikoshese mukoma ka ndeyekuti tingafane nhamo shuwa totofane nhamo takutosvika pakutochembera hatina kana kumboshanda nenyaya yegovernment yedu dei chitenda cheiyo hatizvati haigoni hainawo chainacho ngaichitenderawo kana kuti ma-NGO kana kuti vamwe vanhu vanobva kuzheva nemari dzavo vanoda kuzodetsera. Iye problem yatinongoiblema ndeyekuti iyo iri kuita senge iri kuclose door kuti kuma-foreign investors arida kudetsera kuti maprogramu kana kuti makambani avhugwe. Tikapinda unoti hatingambotadzi kupinda dei nzinzi nyika ikonomi iri kufaya chaiko chaiko hataitadza kupinda mabasa mumakambani odoti tina kwatakanyanya tindainda nechikoro but hataimbotadza kana industry dzichifaya vanhu vese vanoenda mumabasa. But now nesituation yekuti government mapolisi ayo anongoita seanodzanyirira ndopatinozoti government ndopairi kuchibata napo ipapo iri kutisikirira singamboiti mukoma tina chatiita tenda tatotambura chaiko hapana kumbomira zvakanaka.
Asi mukoma mataura kuti hamusida kuchembera muchimirira mabasa mune makore mangani?
Now I'm 26 tatenda.
Oh, saka muri wechidiki zveshuwa.
Ndio cream yacho.
Ndakasira kungoteerera programu yenyu tatenda ndaivavumwa kusvika 2003 ichitanga kuvambwa program yeCBS. Saka nemiwo miteto kublame iyi futi kana tasvika ipapo tatenda.
We really appreciate that, Donald.
Tofangwa kutozombotsvaira ikoko bhozi tiri malisteners yenyu vakomana motiziva imi.
Tinokuziva mukoma.
Mukangoti invitawo kana tikangouyawo 3 days tiriko tikaonawo mastudio tikaonawo timu yedu zvakaipei.
Tichaita ka-fundraiser kuti muye motiona. Okay.
Uyakhuluma lapha uDonald.
Motaurira vakuru venyu kuvoice of Njiri aiwa motisponsor vakomana aiwa touya tikauyawo tikaita Njiri zoimotivatewo vamwe malisteners kuti mukomana waye akazoendawo kuAmerica akangonotaurawo nanatatenda for 4 days zvakanaka zvikadiwa kumana.
Aiwa tichaudza mukoma Donald tinotenda kuti tapinda muchirongo.
Vakuru vedu takambotaura navo pano apa kuti takuda program yema-youth manje saka vakaterera. Saka nyaya yenyu Donald tichaisvitsa zvekare kuvakuru ikoko hamene kuti vachaitambira sei but tinovimbisa, we'll try.
Yeah. Tinotaura nawo mukoma Donald. Tinotenda. Thank you very much.
We appreciate.
Musakata phone yangu ndi discussion yakabayoperera.
Tinokufonerai mazuwe ose mukoma Donald.
Uyakhuluma uDonald lapha.
Musakata kozvinezvi.
Okay.
Uyakhuluma uDonald la ukhala ngemsebenzi uthi sele eminyaka engu 26 or 27. 26 uthi uqeda isikolo obesilalela kakhulu njengomsakazo westudio 7 singumsakazo kaZulu phela thina. Yes, siyakubonga ngalokho. La njengabantu abaningi ukhala ngokuthi imisebenzi bakithi imisebenzi kayitholakali abasakhulayo bathole nzima. Kodwa nxa sesikhangela ngenye indlela umnotho weZimbabwe yebo kawuvumi uyasadalala imisebenzi kayikho ama-youth ayiwo esingathi yi-majority ye-population bathwele nzima. Kodwa ungakhangela la kwamanye amazwe ungaya e-Europe ubuye ngapha North America, South America udaba lokuswelakala kwemisebenzi ku-demographic yama-youth kwabasakhulayo. You know, ludaba olukhulu kakhulu is a major issue that demographic, the youth demographic is hard pressed for jobs.
Yeah, no matter where you go. Yeah, as you said, anywhere you go in Tunga, the issue of jobs is a hot topic. You know, young kids are going to college. Even here, you know, people joke that their degrees become placeholders because, you know, they get their degree and sometimes they can't even find a job in the industry that they spent years studying for. So I think no matter where you are, young people have that one connection, that issue of finding jobs.
Indeed. To dzoka kwauri Gladys Ndezvipi zva unofunga kuti vechidiki vanofanirwa kuzvikoshesa pakuedza kubuda padambudziko iri rekushayikwa kwemabasa?
Ndingati nini kuda, the first thing that young people should really prioritize is that they locate themselves in positions that enable them to influence those in power. Those in power are the ones who are controlling the means of production, and they don't want to leave because they want to continue, oppressing the young people. So it only requires the young people themselves to brace up and really try to influence how they are governed, number one. And then number two, I think the young people also need to prioritize being innovative, like you said before, Ntunga. Yes, we are in this situation and we are trying to push our way through to influence how we are being governed. But also we need to be doing something in the meantime so that we are able to earn a living in a way that does not make us engage in criminal activities. Let's go out there and try and explore. I think one of the examples that I gave before is that we are trying to also have young women into mining because we know that we have lots of resources as a country and therefore we need to have access to this. Let's find ways to be involved in issues where, or rather in activities where we are able to at least, extract something and be able to earn a living. So young people, yes, they can go into farming, they can go into mining, and they can even think beyond the box. I think one other example that we have of being innovative and how that can pay off really is the issue of Facebook. How somebody has managed to earn millions, by just using a computer and connecting people throughout the world. Mm-hmm. So I think as young Zimbabweans, we also need to be as innovative and really think outside the box. Think outside just the physical goods that we can deliver, but also, engage in use of our ICTs, to enhance our own living. So I think for me, basically, there are a lot of things that young people can do. And, speaking of Zimbabweans, we are proud to be one of the most educated nation. And I think we really need to put our degrees, we need to put our brains into good use and find out how we can make use of that knowledge, to open alternative opportunities for economic welfare.
Hayi siyabonga Gladys Changa Chirere uyakhuluma lapho tatenda ukubana njengabasakhulayo kumele bathola indlela yokukhulumisana ukubana kuyini kahle kahle okungenziwa bekhona ukuparticipate labo kuma decision making bethola indlela yokuziphilisa athi ukubana ba continue kumbe baqhubeke bekhala ngokuswelakala kwemisebenzi kuphela ngoba siyazi vele kayikho imisebenzi. Umbuzo omkhulu ngokuthi kungenziwani. And it's attender from the messages that we have been receiving. I can highlight some of the issues that our listeners want us to talk about. The issue of unemployment, innovation, civil engagement, migration, social media, and development.
Mm-hmm. And I think before we go, we have about 10 seconds, but Mkoma Jabson is still per line. And I think he just wants to say one more thing before we get off the air. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, the issue which was been talking about, it's important. You see, the youth in Zimbabwe have been divided. They can't stand against, our leaders. They can't because we have already been divided. So what mostly needed for civil organizations, to go and have an impact on bringing to back the youth so that they can stand up their voice. Maybe one day they can.
Thanks, Mkoma Jabson.
Thank you, Mkoma Jabson, for that. We'll
time
definitely
is no longer on our side. Thank you, listeners. And our guest, Gladys Changa Chirere. I'm Tungamili Nkomo.
And I'm Tatenda Gumbo. Make sure you continue connecting with us on Facebook, Twitter, and WhatsApp. We'll see you next Tuesday.